and we are live on the Vessels Podcast. My name is Jeremy. To my left is my wingman, right hand and man partner. My secret lover.
In the nighttime.
In the night.
My right-handed man partner.
Does he have a name?
CJ Beatty.
CJ.
Also known as Christian. No one knows him as CJ.
Actually,
Only in Africa.
Only in Africa.
Only in Africa.
And some of my family.
And some of your family. And sitting adjacent across from me is the one and only Connor Medea.
I go by idiot more often than that, yeah.
We like to uplift.
There is for everyone, just to let you guys know, there is a sign in Connor's room that says, "No stupid people allowed beyond the sign."
I haven't been in my room since.
Wow.
And if that doesn't say anything, we don't know what does. Sitting next to him, I don't know why she's dating him, but this is Connor's girlfriend.
Allie Champion.
Allie Champion! Thank you for introducing yourself.
Anytime.
All right.
You're like, you
And-
can go now. That's all we need.
Yep. I was like, that's your turn. Go. I'm like the director in the back. And this is the Vessels Podcast, which is a part of Ask Us Why's Christian apparel line.
That's mine. It's my apparel line.
It's Christian's apparel line. Mine.
Boom.
Mine. And it is, we call it Vessels Podcast because we are simply 12 years old and 13 years old. So
Yeah.
very young. And we don't know everything in the world. We're not, experienced, wise geezers and Gandalfs that roam the earth and share all their experiences they've gone through. But we definitely have learned some things, and we continue to learn things from those that are wiser than us and have gone through the things. And we just retain the information and the wisdom, and we just kind of pass it on, being a vessel. So the idea is that we're just here to share some insight into relevant topics that are pertainable to young people that have been walking with Jesus for a long time, pretty much anybody. But definitely are topics that people are talking about today, because we're not here talking about, St. Augustine and theologians and people of the old, because we don't really care about that anymore, do we now?
No.
Just totally kidding. Anyways, let's get a read on the room. How's everyone doing? Scale of 1 to 10. How has your day been?
Okay, wait.
Let's go.
Spiritually, mentally, physically, or emotionally?
I'm just going to skip Christian, and we're going to go to Connor. This is an accumulation of all of them. I'm totally kidding. Christian, you can go first. Yeah, all of it, bro. Christian's about to take the next 5 minutes.
I
play the Jeopardy music in
Loading.
the background. I'm like a solid 8.
Let's go. That's a
Today's
good
been
number.
great.
That's a good number. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Connor, what you at?
It's over 100 degrees, so that drops my mood about 3 points.
At least 3. At least it's sunny.
Other than that,
Oh, man.
fantastic.
That's awesome.
So you're a 7?
Yes.
Nice. Allie, how you doing?
7.4.
7.4.
Wow.
Care to share why 0.4?
Because I haven't seen Connor in a couple of days.
She wanted to be 0.4 points better than,
I did.
than my score.
I just had
That's
to
funny.
do something to be different.
Be better.
All it takes is just that much to be above average.
It does.
Thank God I ain't average.
Yeah.
I don't know the rest of the song. That's the only thing I know from it. I'm totally kidding.
Anyways,
Anyways,
talking about being in school, his teachers didn't want him to be average. He's like, thinking
yeah.
I'm average.
thank God I'm not average. She said, yeah, I don't know. Anyways,
Christian rap.
yeah, I'm at a 10 out of 10, baby. Let's go.
The energy is unreal.
Totally just blew out the speakers.
Definitely.
All right,
in this thing.
That's loud.
who thinks he's bragging?
So why bragging?
Gosh, man, you're so.
It is because I
10 out of
have
10.
the cutest puppy in the world, and his name is Cooper, and he is sleeping
true.
next to us, and he is
No,
the
that's
cutest
false.
floofster.
He's literally eating a rock in front of me.
well.
Absolutely not
I
true.
did not realize that he moved, and he's sleek. He's a sleek man.
He eats rocks when he sleeps. It's so cute.
We actually have a collection of rocks because what he does
do.
is he goes into the backyard, and when he runs out of rocks that are already on the surface, he digs until he finds them. There is about 5 holes in the backyard now, and he just grabs rocks and brings them in. I think I have a small piece, I think, in here because he brought one to me and it was not good. Nope. You might have taken it.
You're talking about the nail?
Probably has it. Nope, not the nail. He brought a smaller rock.
The nail was not good.
It's
anyways.
more like a chunk of
Yeah.
Cement.
It's not good for him to. I don't think it's good for him to eat rocks. Probably not.
I mean, it's
Gives it
just
Should I do
baby
something
teeth.
about it? We were supposed to see the vet yesterday and we slept through it, so we rescheduled.
Just
Thankfully.
email the answers to @ConnorMedea.
Yeah, if you guys have any complaints for the way I treat my dog, just send them over to connormedea@gmail.com so you guys can just let her rip on me. Yeah, I don't think rocks are good for him. Probably because they're full of bacteria and they're in dirt, but also because they probably have things that are toxic in them that you should like avoid.
I knew you were gonna take it.
There's
there.
hold on. There's bacteria in rocks?
Yeah,
Just
when it's
let
under
him
the
have it.
ground,
He
it's
was
just
trying to create a
bacteria.
segue.
I don't know, man.
Nope.
I
He was
don't know.
creating a segue.
Nope. Cancel Remy. Hashtag cancel Remy. My transition earlier was way better.
Yeah, when we weren't recording.
Yeah.
That was back. Sorry, guys. Like I said, we're 12 and 13. We're still going through puberty. Oh, man.
Ew, so toxic.
You know what's
man,
toxic?
What? What's toxic, Christian? Your behavior to me right now? Because you are being
What are
so
the,
rude.
What are the 3 types of rocks? Do you guys remember this?
Sedimentary,
There's like 2 other. Metamorphosis, right?
Glacier?
No.
metamorphic rock.
That's-
metamorphosis.
that's water.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Metamorphic.
remember the
Magma.
other one.
Sedimentary, and then
No,
it starts
I-
with an O. It's like
Obsidian?
obsidian. There it is. Obsidian rock.
I told you
Is
I was
that-
smart.
That's not a type of rock.
And then yeah, it is.
Obsidian is
is.
like a specific rock, I thought.
No, it's the type of rock. Well, then you have bedrock. Then you have Dwayne the Rock
Anyways.
Johnson. So I mean,
So
there's multiple rocks at that point.
toxic
There's
relationship.
rock and
Oh.
roll. There's punk rock. There is
There's
I
igneous,
just give you a little
metamorphic,
forewarning.
igneous.
sedimentary, and that one.
Nice.
All right. Well, I am positive that you
Toxic
didn't come to this.
relationships.
You did not come to this. I was getting there, Christian.
Toxic relationships.
I'm pretty sure you didn't come to this podcast looking for the different
Toxic
types of rocks,
relationships.
but I'm so glad you learned them with us. Transitioning on from this, we are going to be moving on to the actual topic of today, which is toxic relationships.
Whoop, whoop.
Done, done,
This is
done.
this
You're
is
in
my
one.
favorite.
Hot take.
topic.
You're in one. Prove me wrong.
Everybody's in a toxic relationship.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay,
No.
seriously though, there are a growing number of relationships that I would deem toxic for
Growing.
many different definitions and reasons. But well, it's because culture is constantly making a bigger influence. I mean, you said it today, right? You said what? Only 4% of Gen Z hold a biblical worldview and believe in the Bible and in God, which is astronomically small. We are in that 4%. We are the 4.
This is the 4.
This
right?
is it. What's up, Gen Z repping? But yeah, there's a just growing influence from culture, and so it's just, I mean, what dating used to be, and then what marriage used to look like, is so much different now, and it's constantly being influenced by the world, and so we definitely are seeing a high rise in toxic relationships, and I'm sure that you guys know someone or are currently probably in a toxic relationship, and maybe this will give some insight into your guys' relationship and maybe how to get out of it. But what do you guys think defines a toxic relationship? What are your guys' hot takes on this?
I think that the word toxic is probably something that, like the definition depends on the culture as well. I think a toxic relationship looks different to like a secular like worldview culture, because I think they tend to deem like toxic relationships anything that isn't good for you and what you want, which is already twisted, I guess, because like we said on an earlier podcast, like your life isn't about you anyways, at least if you're a Christian. Like, so I don't think we should be surprised that there is a rise in toxic relationships, at least in like a secular worldview, because I think people try and like cancel all these relationships. Like they don't like their parents because their parents want them to do this, or they don't want their friends to be around them anymore because either their friends don't want to do this with them, or they called them out and they don't think your friend should call you out, all of these things. But I think specifically if we're talking about a Christian worldview, a biblical worldview, a toxic relationship is something that doesn't glorify God.
Yeah. Good answer. Allie, what do you think?
I think they're like, I don't really know if I have a definition, but I more have like red flags to look
Yeah.
for. And I wrote them down. I said, they're always making it about them. I find it very, this culture in general, we're very much like me, like we're very selfish.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's very easy to just listen to how they talk. And if you are hurt by something and you voice that and they're like, well, I didn't mean to, like this, like they turn it into you're saying sorry. That's a really big red flag in my opinion. They're always putting you down and stripping you of your self-esteem. I said this to Christian once. I said the easiest way for a guy to get you to stay with them. Sorry to target men. I've just never dated a woman. But the easiest way to get a girl to stay with you as a man is to strip the girl of her confidence. Because if she feels she has none without you, she'll never leave. They're controlling. They're excessively jealous over things that do not matter. And you keep wanting and hoping for them to change. Like there's something that just bothers you about them, but it's just not changing. They never take ownership or responsibility for things. I think a big thing about even just maturity is being able to say, I messed up. That was my fault, and taking ownership. Doesn't mean you have to harp on it the rest of your life, but if someone can't take ownership, they're just an immature person. A big thing is if your family and friends are concerned for you, I caution everyone that if family, friends, or anyone in between like has commentary on the person you're dating, a lot of times it may feel like, oh, they just don't get them or don't see them, but the reality is they probably see something you aren't seeing. And I promise you, they're not trying to ruin your life, and they're not jealous, and they're not trying to manipulate, and they don't want to see you unhappy. Yeah. They want to see you happy, and they're afraid for you. So I would listen, take it with a grain of salt, further ask questions about what they're seeing. Ask for examples. Don't just, I'm not saying dump the guy or dump the girl right on sight, but take it to heart. And then they're always making excuses for their behavior. That's a big thing that I'm not a fan of. And I see it often is like if they're making excuses or you make excuses for them. Like if you have a boyfriend and he acts out and your friends are like, hey, I really didn't like that. I saw X, Y, and Z happen. And you're like, oh, you just don't get him. You don't get the way he is. Like if they're always making excuses for the way he treats people or acts, that's a really big red flag. So those are just some of many, but.
Pop off. That was great.
Let's go. Christian, what you got? What you think?
What do I think? I think a toxic relationship is one that is not leading you into, emotional and spiritual and mental maturity, and like sanctification. So wait,
that's a big word. People might not know what that means. What does sanctification mean?
Essentially becoming more like Christ.
Okay.
As a believer, like you just grow in your faith and your understanding of the Lord, and that's basically sanctification, right?
Yeah.
And so it's someone who builds you up, who encourages you, and helps you grow into the person and character that the Lord has made you to be, whatever that looks like. So there's a long list of things that isn't, which could easily include, making you like changing who you were before the relationship in a way that like family and friends notice. That is not in a positive light.
Right.
I think is one of the biggest things in my experience of a toxic relationship is that like there's just something changes about you and it's not good. So that's what I would say. Just keep it brief.
That was good.
Pop off, Christian. Let's go. Hey, I got a few things too. Here's my 2 cents.
Oh, God.
I'm just kidding. One of them is that the relationship is not about getting married. We somehow have this new idea that dating is this like, adventure of just going around and like having emotional affairs with a lot of different people and just trying it out and experimenting and seeing who's a good fit for you. But also people kind of see it as a game nowadays, honestly. Like,
yeah. Well, it's literally called
body
the
count.
dating game.
Yeah, literally.
Body
Wait,
count.
what? What's
Body
it called?
The dating game?
Oh, they said the breeding game. I was like, what calls it
no.
that?
Connor was in a different
Yeah, Connor wasn't
world.
here.
And all of a sudden he just heard a weird echo in the corner and said, breeding game.
I was like, what the?
Anywho,
Birchie?
back
Two
to what you were
Connors.
saying.
Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, we treat it like a game nowadays. We think that it's about, you catch feelings for someone and so you're like, oh, I should just pursue it. And so you pursue it, but you don't like no one thinks nowadays to look at the cost of what does it look like to actually get into a relationship with this person? Like, where is it going to go?
Right.
We get to a point where we catch feelings, we think it's fun. Yeah, you kiss them, you hold hands, you do all the affectionate things, and it's super exciting, right? But then time goes on and you're like, well, I'm not trying to get married anytime soon. Like, I'd really prefer to just kind of keep things how they are because I'm comfortable where I'm at.
Right.
Or they realize they're going to go to like 2 different colleges, or they have different career paths and they're going to live in different states. And so, they kind of just wait off, or it ends in a heartbreak. Or I've seen relationships that have lasted like literally 7 years with them like living together, being everything, including that of like sex and becoming one, and then breaking up.
Yeah.
As if like they talked all the time about getting married, but they still ended up breaking up. Like I hope they would get back together and like,
even though
stick
I've
with
looked it up and verbal binding contracts are legal in Arizona. So like all my exes that said they want to marry me, like I'm suing you. Like you.
Wait, what?
Hold on.
I'm just kidding. Like when you say it, like I know I was just making a joke.
That's funny.
Because you
That's
say
hilarious.
it, but technically
Clever.
verbal binding contracts in Arizona.
I
That's
didn't
hilarious.
know that.
You wanted to know.
It's good to know.
I didn't know
Be a
that.
man of your word. That's what you learned from that. I've been learning that recently. Let me tell you.
We will have another topic about that. But we don't realize that dating is only a newer concept that came around about 130 years ago. It's towards the end of the 1800s or the 19th century. And the idea was, pre-dating, everything was arranged, whether it be arranged by parents or be arranged by the man who would find a woman to take. It was always just literally a selection, and then you just made that marriage work. And studies actually show today that still arranged marriages have a higher success rate than those in
do,
America
yeah.
of people who date. And there's also a percentage or a higher percentage of successful marriages of people who chose not to have sex or live together before marriage and then go into marriage. So it's like this weird idea where it's like, oh, like maybe the things that I've understood and think are just normal about dating are not actually normal and are just cultural ideas that we think are true.
Right.
And then we let that kind of guide us into decisions that we end up regretting or just cause us more pain in the long run.
Yeah.
So definitely like one thing for sure is if you're not dating for the purpose of trying to find someone to marry and marry soon, then you should not be, I don't think, in that relationship. That's probably a hot take, and you probably think that that's something that, might
But what if I
disagree
just
with.
want to like what if I'm just going to college, like it's my freshman year? Can I just, meet people, have fun, like hang out with girls, do what I want? Like, why is that such a bad thing?
Yeah, well, it could be fun, but you know what else is not fun is living with sin in your life where you constantly feel apart from God and you feel regret and you feel shame and you don't feel like you can have an honest relationship with God, and you're kind of stuck into a relationship where you're kind of like, I think I made some mistakes and I don't know how to get out of it. Allie?
I was going to say, sorry, speaking on you saying like that we normalize things and like calling it like the dating game and stuff.
Yeah.
Christian and I had a conversation about this because I told him like it's become normal to be like, oh, I've dated like so and so many people, and no one's even shocked by that. They're like, oh, like okay, like I've dated this many. And I think people who have never dated someone or had like a very brief relationship feel like at the bottom of the totem pole, as if that has anything to do with their worth, but more so of like, well, I don't have experience. Like I've never dated before. I don't really have that dating experience, as if that's what it's about. Like you cannot tell me all those people you dated in junior high, high school was your experience, because I have exes and I'm like, yeah, that wasn't a good idea. But I've always looked at it more like, and I told you this, Christian, I was like, honestly, I think girls love that because they feel so special. Like the girl whoever dates you next is going to be like, you've only ever dated one person. Like we get to figure this relationship thing out together.
Yeah.
Whereas like Connor and I have dated other people. So now we have to carry that with us. Like we have baggage, we have scars, we have insecurities from that, like whatever that is. Me more than him. Sorry, I'm not speaking for you. But like we bring that into the relationship, and that sucks. Like it would have been great to be like, I met Connor and that was it. Preschool to now, it's been him all the way. But
You made a verbal contract agreement in preschool.
On the playground.
I chose you.
literally,
I saw her on the monkey bars. I was like, that's the one, baby.
No, you guys were swinging at the same time, right?
yeah, exactly.
That's how it works. Double dating, is that what it's called?
Exactly.
Double Dutch.
Double Dutch?
They were jump roping.
Oh, okay. But isn't there a thing where like you and you're swinging the same time as someone? It was like double dating.
By the way, Allie
know.
loves swings.
I do.
She's a big swing girl.
You just smiled
You're
so
one of
big,
those that
was
like
funny.
sees
No,
a
like-
chandelier and you're like, I'm gonna swing.
No, like I
Just
just like
runs
I
and jumps.
love swings.
All right.
I just love swings.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
I
You
love that you know that.
really fine for me.
I love it. Anywho, back to what I was saying though. Like it's just become like this idea of like people do want to date and just
Yeah.
get experience. But like Connor, you said once, you dove into how it might not be toxic, but you can caution that it could be pointless. And like if you're just dating and you're like, yeah, well, like people that put time limits on things, I think is what you talked about. Do you remember what I'm saying? You can take over at any time. But you were like,
A little bit.
okay.
I think what I was saying that time was more of when you talked about like a relationship that's not leading to marriage.
Yeah.
Like I think I said any relationship that's not leading to marriage, whether it be you're just dating to have fun or you're living together and you don't really want to, put the ring on it or, all of these other things and you're just waiting. You're like, oh, we're going to get married, in 3 years. Like
Or when we
we're going to get
graduate.
engaged and
Yeah.
we're going to be engaged for 2.5 years. It's like,
I
what
once
is
had
the
a
point of
person
all of
hit me
these
up
things?
to shoot their wedding because for those you don't know, I sometimes do wedding photography, and they were like, yeah, we looking to get married in 2022, and it was 2018 at the time. I was like, I'm sorry, what? 4 years? And they're like, yeah, well, we're just gonna we're engaged, but we're gonna finish school first and then we'll get married. And I was like, what?
That's
So,
horrible.
yeah. Carry on, Connor.
But yeah, I think the whole point of that whole thing was if it's not leading to marriage, it's pointless. And my take was the pointless can be correlated with toxic. Like those two things, I think,
Yeah.
can be taken together. Like if it's pointless, in a way, it's toxic. Like
Yeah.
obviously, what's the point?
Well, even if it's not, you wouldn't define it as toxic yet, it will eventually lead to being a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, dating is still an idea that we have created, which can be used for the glory of God. But if you abuse it and use it wrongly, it will lead to toxic relationships and things that God does not desire for us.
Right.
So, like, you say, like, well, I mean, what does the Bible say about dating? Like, the Bible doesn't say anything about it because it did not exist. There was
was the
something
point?
called courting, but that was like engagement, where you were like, I'm intentionally pursuing you now because I'm going to marry you.
Because you are mine.
Exactly. But marriage
Property.
is absolutely talked about in Scripture and talk about all day long, right? But when we take the idea of dating and we don't want to make it about getting married, then all we're doing is practicing a world tradition that honestly like leads to a lot of heartbreak all over the place. Speaking from experience, I'm sure you guys all can speak from experience of past relationships. You guys had any toxic relationships before?
Yes, sir.
High fives all around.
Yeah.
Should we do a podcast on
times.
our stories of toxic relationships and breakups?
If this gets 1 million views,
Yes.
Sounds like something Connor would say.
If we get
$1
$1 million
million.
donated,
Every time I tell Connor, I'm like, Connor, I have some financial goals. And he's like, $1 million. I'm like, all right, I'm not sharing them with you anymore. But yeah, we definitely, I think, misconstrue the idea that dating should only be for the purpose of getting married. And if our mindset, first and foremost, is not set on getting married from this relationship, and within a span of time where like you can do it comfortably to where you're not going to lead yourself into sin and you're confident, like you're engaged kind of thing, not just talking about marriage forever and being like, yeah, we'll eventually get married, but like actually like doing something about it. It definitely can lead to getting really close, getting really intimate, and leading to sin. And again, just because you're dating and you love them and you guys are like, we're going to get married, it doesn't mean it's going to happen till the decision is actually made.
yeah, and also living together and like living in that sin, but saying like we're gonna get engaged. That's, I think girls especially, I don't know about guys, but we get in that mindset of that will correct the sin. As
Yes.
if that covers it. Like, yeah, we slept together and had sex and now we live together. But once we get the ring on the finger, all that goes away because now we're doing it right. It's like, that's
Right.
not how that works.
Yeah, that's a growing thing too that more and more Christians are becoming okay with, is living with your significant other before getting married.
Yeah.
And
We're just normalizing everything.
we normalize it. And it's like you can, but man, does it lead to so much pain and lead
Yeah.
to sin and lead to consequences that we have to like live with for a long time. And so like that's up to you if you want to do that, because all things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial for us, right? But yeah, just a couple other I'll just graze over because we don't want to take this thing forever because I could talk about it forever. But another big one is when your identity is found in them and not in Christ.
That's just a girl thing, I'm telling you.
It's hard.
necessarily.
If we're not like, that's true. Guys can do the same thing too.
Yeah.
If we're not set on our relationship first with Jesus and content with that, finding our identity solely in Him,
Yeah.
if we start going and looking for it in other people, huge sign of toxic relationship. Because newsflash, that stays with you however long you date them or get married. That does not go away, but that hinders your relationship with Christ because you're not turning to Christ, you're turning to the other person.
Yeah.
So maybe you keep turning to the other person and you're married and things just get worse and worse. And maybe you're like, I'm out, and you get a divorce, or you break up before you're married and you have an identity crisis because you're like, I don't know who to turn to. I don't know anything about myself because I was receiving all of my affirmation, all of my like just like compliments and identity in that other person because they reassured me of those things by telling me the things that the Bible really tells us about our truth that we find in Christ. We like find it from those other people, and so that can be super dangerous and unhealthy as well.
And that one's, I feel like, really hard. Like, that's a lesson that I'm still learning, even. Like,
Totally.
regardless of how ugly I feel, like, I can't be like, Connor, can you just tell me I'm pretty? Because, like, I don't feel pretty today. As much as I do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely, like, that's a lesson that I feel like is really hard to remember, that regardless of how you feel,
Yeah.
that's not where your identity is found. It's not found in what you see in the mirror or how
Yeah.
you feel
Totally.
at all. It's in the truth, which can't be undone, can't be unwritten, can't
Yeah.
be unseen.
For real. Another one that's like super like kind of obvious. I think most of us kind of know this, but when boundaries are being crossed and consistently and not being addressed, because boundaries can get crossed, like they happen. It's totally normal. It's just what happens when you're in that dating phase of things. But
Yeah,
if you're not
sometimes
trying to
you
get,
make eye contact before marriage.
it's just so hard. But if you are consistently pushing those boundaries and you've become normalized to those sins and you're numb to them, where it no longer is something you feel convicted by, that is a strong sign that you're in a toxic relationship. Even if the other person, this is something to realize too. When we say toxic relationship, it doesn't mean the other person is toxic. It could mean that to some extent, but like the dynamic of the relationship is what is toxic. So it doesn't mean that the person you're dating is a bad person. They're a sinful human being. Stay away from them. Do not be involved with them at all. It's like, no, there's just certain things that you need to do to protect yourself. And if you don't realize that the relationship is unhealthy, then you're going to avoid those things at all cost, right? But just to understand that it has more to do with the dynamic and the relationship within it than it is the person, because we're all sinful human beings. Things happen. We make mistakes. It could be the person though. It really could be. It could also
Or it could be you.
Or it could be you. It could easily be either one of those.
Probably
but
both, actually.
that's yes, but that takes like maturity, being able to identify those things and not just assume one or the other.
Right.
But I don't want it to just be labeled as like it's the other person, because it does have a lot to do with like yourself as well, because you either make the choices to either stay in it or entice it, or you could, and this is also another option, is that, or not option, but situation is where you are in an extremely unhealthy relationship where like you're being abused and stuff, where it's really hard to get out of those things.
Well, that's the thing. There's extremes, right? Because there is like the obvious
Right.
toxic relationship, but I do want to like harp on there are relationships as well, and I've seen them in my people that I know. They're even their families where the
Yeah.
husband cheated, and he's an awful man, but they're still married, still have kids, still go to CCV every week. Like, it's really easy to be like, oh, we didn't have sex before marriage, and we read the Bible and we go to church. It's so easy to be like, well, we do that, so everything's fine.
Yeah.
Is if you're ticking a box, and that's not what it's about. Your relationship can look so pretty on the outside, and whatever you post, whatever you pick and whatever share,
Yeah.
but we're not talking about just like, as long as it's not this, you are in a good relationship, because the reality is we're not going to name everything.
Yeah.
There are going to be things, and 9 times out of 10 you'll feel it. I feel like the biggest thing is other people sharing. Unless
Yeah.
you shut them out, that should be a bonus. If you've no friends left, let's ask why.
Yeah.
But people would be, I feel like, the biggest one that will share. But I just wanted to harp on, it doesn't
Totally.
have to be this huge toxic. He's not, you can be like, well, he's not like hitting me, but is he calling you mean names? Is he putting you down all the time? Like,
Yeah.
there's other than just black and white. It's not
Totally.
always black and white.
Yeah. And then one that is really big for me that I do want to kind of nail down, because I've been seeing this a lot, is when the relationship is self-centered, when it's all about yourself. Like, there are people that are ready for a relationship, and there's those that are cool with relationships because they'll form it to whatever they want to make it convenient, but they're not going to do anything to be sacrificing for the other person. I have only been married now for 6 months. Woo! Oh gosh, 6 months and like 25 days. That's as long as I've been married right now.
Who's
Probably
counting?
is it the 28th? Yeah,
we
25
get
days.
married?
It is hard. Like no joke. When it comes to being married, everything can be great. Like me and Alyssa never like argued that much before getting married, and things used to be super easy and whatnot. But the second you live with them, if you're not in the best mood and you start getting passive towards them, and it has nothing to do with them, but just your normal day of life being a human being, you treating them that way cause conflict, and then it builds up things. And there's so many different issues, but like each of us have needs and we want those needs to be met. And like our job is to be serving each other. And it has been a huge learning curve for us, because you realize that like, man, if we would have realized how much we should have been really serving each other before marriage, it probably would have saved us a lot of the conflict that we kind of have been going through or had been going through for, you know, the past few months trying to figure that out. But when a relationship has someone involved, when you're dating someone that isn't sacrificing for you or isn't going out of their way for you or makes it all about them in the relationship, that is an extreme sign of something that's toxic. Because if you choose to marry that person or eventually marry that person, like if they aren't making adjustments, then that is something that you're just going to be living miserably with every day, because it's going to be surrounding their schedule and their time and their time frame. You know, I want to go do this and that. It's like, oh, well, you know, that'd be cool, but I need to do this. And so then it only revolves around one side. So I have seen relationships where it is very toxic, where it only seems to be about one person instead of them coming together and serving each other and like serving their needs. Because being married is not about yourself. It's about dying to yourself, right? It's literally embodying the relationship between Jesus and the church, and Jesus dying for it. So like, if we're not sacrificing for the other person, or we're not seeing that serving mentality when you're even dating, that can be a sure sign that like it's not necessarily going to be a fully toxic relationship, as if like it's going to lead to extreme harm, but it's definitely going to make the relationship that much harder to manage and to make work,
Or even to get out of.
which is very true. And then my last one is those around you don't seem to support it. This could be a big topic we could talk about, and we can kind of dip into that. But sometimes we do have the friends that will tell us and be like, hey, you probably shouldn't be dating this person. And it's not because they don't want you to be happy and because they're jealous of you or any of those things. They could already be in their own relationship or anything. But if they're reaching out and they're having as hard of a conversation as something like that probably is, and I've had it with friends before, like they're doing it out of love because they know that you either deserve better or that it is really hurting you, which could go, I guess, both ways with that. But like they want what's best for you. And if they're seeing like as broad daylight as it is that this is not something that's for you, and they know you, then that's probably a good sign that you're not in a relationship that is something that you should continue pursuing. You can obviously take it into account and then reflect on that, because for instance, you could actually have a really good relationship and someone that's like not a bit like a Christian come and tell you that they think it's toxic because you're not sleeping with them beforehand. Then that's like a situation where you're like, okay, well,
Right.
like I hear what you're saying, thank you so much, but like this doesn't revolve around my beliefs and what God commands me to do. But vice versa, what we're really talking about is when you have friends telling you like, hey, we don't really think this is good for you, you deserve better, or this is just causing weird problems with our community and stuff, and it just doesn't seem to be good. That's probably a sure sign of it. Yeah.
Adding on to that, just like, because we are supposed to have community, but I've noticed even with like my friends and in past relationships that I've been in, which I caution everyone, you should always be careful what you share about your partner, whether that's fights you've been in, arguments that happened, incidents that have happened, your hurts, your angers, your frustrations. Be careful who you share that with, especially of the opposite sex. That's a big red flag. No, thank you very much. I don't have time for that. But whoever you're sharing that with, be careful, because you never, obviously if it's heat in the moment, I always wait on it. I'm not always good at that. Sometimes like I can get really upset and just like want to share. But I think especially like now, mainly because Connor doesn't really tee me off that much, but like, I do have friends that come to me for all their relationship issues. And I've always been like, well, what does so-and-so think about it? And they're like, well, I don't want to tell her because she'll tell me to dump him. And I'm like, But I've noticed I found myself doing that in past relationships where I would filter who I was telling what was really happening. I would switch the stories around because I didn't want them to tell me to dump them. I knew I should, but I was scared. I didn't want that to happen. So I would say it's not even about like what they're saying, but what you're afraid of them saying. That's a big thing. Because if you're too afraid to tell them like, oh, like he did this, And this is how it made me feel, because deep down that's not okay. He shouldn't say that to you, or he shouldn't make that a big deal, or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because the reality is your friends are going to call him on it.
Totally.
Because they don't care about their feelings. They care about you.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. Just remember, what are you afraid of them saying? Not even what they do say.
Totally. Connor, what do you think, bro?
Yeah, a couple things. I think one thing, like if you're listening to this right now and like maybe one of your close friends has brought it up to you and you've pushed them away, like they brought it up to you, like maybe the relationship you're in is not healthy for you, like it's not glorifying God, it's toxic in a way, and you like justify that for the other person. I think it's in a lot of toxic relationships, I think it can go both ways, but I think one person is probably really good at distracting you, like when you see those toxic things, if that makes sense. So like if they get in a big fight and it was a really stupid fight and they, I don't know, they cursed you out or something, they threw something at you and you had to like leave. And then the next like week they buy you something like super nice, like something that they know you like they buy you a new necklace, and it's like, oh, it's so easy to just forget everything that just happened last week because of this big shiny thing that he got me or she got me, And so I think just be careful of those things, because in reality, most times that person's not going to change. They're just going to try and distract you from what's really going on. So the other thing is, if you are in a relationship and that person either gets upset when you want to go hang out with like your guy friends or your girlfriends, like just not even like every single day, but like the guys are going to go, watch the basketball game tonight. And they're like, oh my gosh, why do you always go hang out with these guys all the time? You know what I mean? That's just
for the boys.
The boys.
Duh.
Or it can be the other way around. Like the guy is upset at his girlfriend because she's going to hang out with the girls. Yeah. Like, it's probably toxic if they don't want you to do anything else with anybody else. If that makes sense. Because, and the other big thing is like, it's like a double whammy, because then if you're not hanging out with anybody else, if you've distanced yourselves from all of these friends that you had before, then nobody's going to be there to keep you accountable. Nobody's going to be there to tell you that this is a toxic relationship, because either you've pushed them away directly or indirectly, your person has pushed them away. And so I think one really easy sign to see of like a toxic relationship is to see how much that person either lost their friends or just like chose to be apart from those people, because they're like, oh, I have, so-and-so, I have my person now. Like, I don't really need, this friendship. I don't need these people anymore because I can just hang out with them all the time. It's not healthy to only hang out with that person all the time. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like, it's not a good thing. You need other people in your life to just do stuff with, and to tell you when you're being an idiot or when you need to get out of that situation.
Yeah. And Connor really will say you're being an idiot. Just would like to clarify.
No, I love that a ton. So a big thing that I think we see a lot is people, and I'm sure you guys can speak from experience, but like have been in a toxic relationship and it took you longer than it really should have to break up with them. Why do you think that we struggle so hard to break up or get out of a toxic relationship?
I have an answer for you.
Hit us with a grr.
At least personally, I think it's that leap of faith. Taking a leap of faith, regardless of what it is really difficult. But it almost feels like, metaphorically, like you're on the edge of a cliff and someone's like, just jump, like you'll land in water, you'll be safe, but you can't see that water. And you're thinking, this is it, like this is the last guy, like there's no other guys out there, and you start panicking. Which fear is not from the Lord. The Lord does not give us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, a spirit of whatever. Anyhow, I'm really smart. But like truly, when you sit in that fear, like that's not from the Lord. When you're afraid of that like next step, and the reality is that girl or guy is not the only one left on planet Earth. If it is, that's terrifying. But they're not.
If it is, you missed the rapture.
The reality is, your life was going on before that person and will continue on. I've been in relationships 2-3 years at a time, like very long time of my life, like big chunks of my life. And to break that off was terrifying. I sat there and was like, I know I'm doing the right thing, but what next? Like it's a scary feeling. It's unknown. No one likes the unknown. And if you do, I don't know how we can be friends.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry. I just truly, it is scary. And I think that's the biggest thing of why people don't want to break it off, because they can't see past it. And speaking even from my experience, and I tell everyone this, like when I broke up with my last boyfriend, never did I was looking forward to being single. I hadn't been single since my freshman year of high school. I was pumped. And then in walks Connor 2 weeks later, and I'm like,
Idiot.
oh God. And now here I am, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I ever thought that was it for me. Like, I cannot believe silly little me sat there crying in my room thinking like, I'll never date again. This is weird. Like, and now here I am. And even my friends who have been engaged and it got broken off or anything in between, I look at them now and I'm like, isn't that crazy to think that time of your life he proposed to you and took it back and you were a shadow of a person. You could not believe that had happened.
Yeah.
And now you're here.
Yeah.
Totally.
Why else do you guys think that we struggle with breaking up or breaking it off?
In my experience, definitely like a fear of there not being another one is a huge one that is super irrational.
Why is it irrational?
Why is it irrational?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people our age that are on fire for the Lord and therefore viable candidates for going into a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's kind of it.
I guess a more elaborate breakdown of that can be in our Soulmates podcast, so go check it out.
Yeah.
We talk about the probability of Christian finding the one.
Yeah. There's no such thing as the one. Sorry.
News flash.
Yep.
Technically, you're the third.
Oof.
Go ahead, Christian.
Anyways. So yeah, I think another thing is it in the past in the relationship, you've passed physical, emotional, spiritual boundaries. And you feel an obligation to stay with someone because you did those things with them or you crossed those boundaries with them. And you feel like it's better if you stay together so that you don't have either the shame of having done that, so then you just get married and then it goes away, or whatever the case may be. And that is also just totally a lie. I think another thing is just doubt. And it doesn't have to be a lot, and when you have like infatuation for a person where your just love goggles are on and you can't see the faults in who they are, and other people are like, you really need to break up with this person, but you're like,
but they're
I hear
cute.
you, yeah, but they're cute, like, but he does this, but it's not that bad, or this, that, or the other, and our minds, I think, like literally come up with excuses and reasons for behavior that's toxic and inappropriate, and it just creates doubt. Even if you see it, you're like, well, I could give them another chance, and it could still work out. And that's unwise. And, in my experience, when you take that leap of faith to go ahead and break up with them, hindsight, you were like, wow, why didn't I do this sooner? Mm-hmm. And I don't think you'll regret, like if it happens to be in the small chance that your community is telling you, hey, this is someone you need to break up with, this isn't healthy for you, or you're noticing things, and you're like, that we've talked about on this podcast, and you break up with them, and as it turns out, you know, a lot of time goes by, you heal emotionally, and you look back and you're like, wow, that relationship actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was, and the people in my life changed their mind. And if all of those things somehow happen, then you could still get back together with them.
Send us an email and tell us we were wrong.
Yeah.
Send it to ConnorMedea@gmail.com.
There's this thing that Tim Ferriss does. He's an author and blogger and does a bunch of crazy stuff, but it's called fear setting. It's kind of like goal setting, but the opposite. If you write down basically the worst case scenario of everything that can happen if you, in this case, broke up with someone, there's ways that you can like minimize the quote unquote damage of that. And there's like, when you actually face the reality of what could happen, usually it's not as bad as you think.
Yeah, once you can become okay with it, makes it way easier to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing I kind of want to circle back is like when you talked about like why it's so hard for so many people to like break that toxic relationship off.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do, especially in Christian communities and like Christian,
Your communities.
yeah, and
My bad,
this
guys.
specifically for Christian, no, but for people who, like believe in Jesus and all of these things, like I think sometimes they've either just been told or been taught or just believe that they're almost entitled to like a perfect relationship, like at whatever point in their life. Like
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I accepted Jesus. Like I'm so excited that he's going to just bless me with this, 6'3" guy. He's going to be, a professional baseball player and he's going to make tons of money. And I'm just going to sit in he's going to have a cute butt. And I'm just going to sit in, this perfect, comfortable life that, because I've accepted Jesus, this is what he gives me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that is a mindset that is so far away from what is biblically true, because in reality, like a lot of people will have like choose to be in a marriage and it'd be really cool. It'd be really good. And that's awesome. But on the other side of that, there's a lot of people that God wants to be single and that he's going to like not push them towards that, but he's going to open doors to where their life, like they might not get married, but they're going to be doing so many amazing things for the kingdom. And that is so much more fulfilling than you being in a toxic relationship because you think you are entitled to that husband or that wife in that comfortable life.
Yeah.
Like Christian, I hope one day, soon or later, you find an amazing woman, but I also know that you are probably like the poster child of what it means to be like a healthy single Christian person. And I hope that doesn't come off the wrong way. Like, but you know what I mean? Like for people who know Christian, like they know that he understands that singleness is a blessing. It is a gift. And he's done so much through that. And I think that's what people fear is like, they think singleness is so much lower on the totem pole than like dating or marriage is. But in reality, like marriage and singleness are both a blessing.
Dating
and
sucks.
Dating is the worst one,
Yeah.
like of those three. And so
is.
I think get it out of your head that like once you accept Jesus, you're entitled to all of these things. Like he wants the best for you. He gives you like life to the fullest, but that might not be what you think it is.
Yeah. That's a good word, man.
That's it.
I love that. Yeah. So there's a lot to take away from this. I think a few that I'm getting from the room is realizing that it is just this mindset of overcoming the feeling of losing that person. And I can speak from experience that if you're going to get out of a relationship, I was in one that lasted for 10 months, but the friendship lasted even longer, not longer than that, but before that. And so getting out of the relationship, I was so afraid to not only feel single, but more like it was my pride of I was so confident that this was the person I was going to be with and they were the perfect person for me that I did not want to accept the loss of being like, you're going to get it wrong sometimes in life. And so I definitely struggle with that. And what I did, I wouldn't say I regret because I'm still who I am today because of what I've experienced. But if I could go back, I definitely would have ended it sooner because it got to the point where I was hurt from the relationship so bad that it didn't even hurt me to break up with them. Like, when you break up with someone, usually it's like super sad and like it's upsetting and you're like, both are crying. It's just a crap show. In the sense of like myself, it was so like numb to just break up with them that it literally was like, I was sad that day when I was at work and I went home and just kind of hung out. The next day I literally was fine. I just went back to my normal life. And I had wondered for months why I was like that. I literally was like, why am I not feeling anything? And I finally sat down with a friend and was just sharing the experience with him. And he was like, it sounds like the reason why it was so easy is because you were, you'd already broken up with them. It seems like so long ago inside. And I was like, oh, that's deep. that's deep.
We're getting deep.
I was like, that's good. And I was like, that makes so much sense. You know, like I was hurt so much from it that I was just numb to it at that point. And it was as if like the relationship was dead inside, but we were still trying to make it look like a picture perfect relationship to everyone else, that when we did break up, everyone was so confused. They were like,
Yeah, I was shocked.
what? Like, no way. It wasn't good for you guys.
No
It
way.
looked amazing from the Instagram profiles. And like, guys, newsflash, like there can be a lot of unhealthy things that happen beneath the surface. And so that was my case. And so, yeah, just getting over that leap and just doing it can be so healing, so healing. And even if not, like if you're afraid to make that full leap of breaking up with someone, I would vouch for just taking a break even. Like if you need to take a month break and separate yourself from them and just get your head on straight and really do some reflection. What?
I don't agree.
Really?
I think breaks are the stupidest thing in the entire world. Taking a break is like, okay, are we still dating? Like, I just think it's dumb.
Well, I mean, it has to be done the right way.
Okay, well,
I
can you
think.
elaborate on that?
Yeah, if you feel that the relationship you're with is someone that is unhealthy, or at least doesn't seem like it's something that should be worth your time,
Yeah.
then you tell them like, we're going to take 30 days and we're just not going to communicate
So
with each
give
other.
it a time limit would be 1.
Yeah, give it time
Okay.
limit, but do not communicate with them at all. Don't
Zero.
play this.
Oh.
Don't communicate with them.
Unfollow
Block.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because you
if
see a picture of them, you text them.
Yeah.
The purpose of the break
Okay.
is to remove yourself emotionally from the relationship, to be more clear-headed about making a decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every single time you see him, it's just like,
Okay.
when you have a
No
thought,
emotions
text
to come back
messages,
in.
all that stuff, you remove all of it from them. So then you're focused back on your own life, and then you get a taste of like, is this what I want, or
Right.
am I going to go back and make this work? Is this worth my time?
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Done. No, that's great. That's great. I'm glad, because maybe some people wouldn't do it the way that we were just
Anytime
thinking of.
someone brings up a break, girls are like, no, because like it gives the guy freedom. And it's like, is that what he want? Like, I see breaks as like guys want to go test other waters and then circle back.
Well, but then
Yeah.
then you're not going to get back with that person. Like if they do those things on the break, obviously you're like
I guess that's true.
out of that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's what they're going to do, then you don't give them a break. You just break up with them.
Also, like with the break thing, like if you do like whatever 30 days and you come back and you're like, all right, let's work on these things, let's do this, and then like a month later you're having to take another break, you should know then. Like you should not have multiple breaks in a relationship trying to figure
literally.
out if it's toxic or not. Like
Yeah.
This
it should
isn't
be pretty
baseball.
clear at that point.
Yep. Be true, man. So yeah, with that being said, I think there's so much more we could talk about, but maybe we can be the voice for you if you're in a toxic relationship right now and you just kind of need to make that decision. Let us ask us why Vessels Podcast be your friend and tell you need to be bold and just make the choice. Make sure you do have good community around you though. If you do it by yourself and you're alone, but you still allow communication with the other person, I've seen it all the time where they break up and they just get back together.
Yeah.
It like lasted like a few days, if that. But it's like, if you're going to do it, like have the good community like around you to support you and to be by your side. But be bold and make that choice. I promise you won't regret it. Especially even if you don't think it's that toxic and it might be a little bit, you never know. But like it can be the healthiest choice you can make for yourself instead of just dancing around with fire and just hoping you're not going to get burned. So yeah, toxic relationships, man. There's so much we could talk about, but I think this is a pretty good conversation. You guys think so?
I think so.
I think it was pretty helpful.
Yeah. Can I wrap it up with one last thing?
Hit me with it, brah.
Okay.
Hit them with it, not just me.
Yeah.
Slap
absolutely.
them with it.
So in my experience in my relationship that was super toxic, I didn't realize how much it affected like who I was, my personality, different things like that when I was in the relationship. I broke up with the girl I was with over a break from school. And when I came back from that break, all of my soccer teammates were like, dude, you're like a completely different person now.
Wow.
And it's not something that you realize when you're in it. And, I think like the biggest litmus test for myself, what I'll look forward to in the future is, if this relationship ends right now, am I leaving this person better than I found them? Am I leaving this relationship better than I went into it? That looks in, you need to look into that in every aspect of your life. Your emotional maturity, physical, spiritual, etc. Because that'll really let you know if it's toxic. If it's toxic, you're not going to be growing and becoming a better person. If it's healthy, then you will be. So just make sure that you're leaving the person better than you found them. And that'll tell you a whole lot about if you're keeping good boundaries and if you break up and there's just utter heartbreak, then you're not leaving them better than you found them.
Totally.
So
good word, man. All right, guys. Well, if you enjoyed this podcast, we would highly encourage you guys to share it with friends that might be in a toxic relationship or might know someone that is, and this might be something helpful for them to know/share with that person. If you wouldn't mind giving this a like or a follow or subscribing with us on YouTube with our video series, you guys can always watch us there. Yeah, we just hope that this was beneficial for you guys. Like, that's why we do this. We do this for ourselves as well, because it's great. We get to grow and we get to talk, have intentional conversations. But more than that, like, we love getting to hear the feedback from people who have listened to our podcast and have grown from it or have been impacted by it. And we get to hear those stories. So if you want to share those stories, or if you want to just like let us know some feedback, we would love it. I think you can leave reviews on podcasts, right? You can go and leave a review on like Apple Podcasts. Yeah. If you want to do that, that'd be super helpful, because I think that helps with algorithm and reaching more people. So we solely just want to make this podcast about ways that we can help you and grow you in your faith. And so we just pray and hope that today's podcast did that for you guys. With that being said, we will peace out of here, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Okay, bye. See you
Peace.
later.
And blessings.
peace out.
Bye.